Face front, true believers. Welcome to the Pitch Nerds, issue 108. We are the weekly show where two nerds bring you the latest in nerdy news, reviews, occasionally pitch original story ideas and whatnot. I am Cap, and joining me today is always best friend, fellow nerd, and I don't have anything prepared this morning. I had a good one yesterday, but I
Really
forgot it.
swell guy.
It's just yes. Joining me today is always best friend, fellow nerd, and real swell guy, Mr. Frosty. Mr. Frosty, how you doing?
I think you're a swell guy too.
Yes.
I'm doing all right. I mean, it's early, and it's my sister's birthday, so she's not here. So, with like all my health issues and my damaged foot, I had to like go around feeding cats and doing all sorts of crap. But I got it done, and I'm here. So, hooray.
Yes. Huzzah.
I'm jealous. She's going out to this nice French restaurant tonight, and she was like, "Should I get the rack of lamb or the God, what's it called? Thing that Gordon Ramsay makes all the time."
Oh, the
beef Wellington.
Yeah, Wellington. I've never had beef Wellington.
Oh, I've had it a few times, but yeah. So, and I was like, "God damn, that sounds so good."
So beef Wellington has mushrooms in it, though, right? Because I'm not a big mushroom.
Yeah, but it's like a mushroom paste. And it just adds that little bit of funkiness, and it mixes in with everything. I don't really care for mushrooms myself, as just something I would eat.
Right.
But on a Wellington, it's like it's different. It's a paste. You know what I mean? It's like having mushroom gravy, for example. That's not for me. The issue with mushrooms, though, is a texture thing. So
yeah. Well, is it one of those weird things that just all the ingredients together seem weird, but it magically works?
It works. No, yeah, Wellingtons are delicious because it's just like really good meat, and then like you get that flaky pastry, and then the mushrooms add that little bit of like funkiness, and then the prosciutto adds that little bit of saltiness, and yeah, everything just comes together. I mean, assuming they made it well. I mean,
right,
up obviously. But yeah, they're delicious.
If I ever have a Wellington, it's going to be a Gordon Ramsay Wellington. I feel like that's just.
Well, I mean, I don't think I've ever had a Gordon Ramsay Wellington, but I've had a lot of Wellingtons over the years, and most restaurants, including the one she's going to, though, because like if you make a big ass one, then you slice it, that's the correct way to have it. But the problem is at a restaurant, like you said, it's going to get cold, and if you're the next customer in line, you wouldn't want reheated Wellington. Right. So they do individual ones where it's almost the whole thing, and it's like a small version of one.
Okay.
And that's what she's getting. And that's the ones I've had mostly. But yeah, Wellingtons are dope. But I think I'd go with rack of lamb if I was her. This rack of lamb is amazing.
Do you like the mint paste on the lamb, the mint sauce? I like mint sauce.
Yeah, it's very English, but it depends on what you're doing. And like what seasoning and stuff is going on the lamb and things like that.
See,
but yeah, the mint sauce is fine.
Yeah, because I've had lamb almost exclusively at the Brazilian steakhouse that you told me about, Agora, where they come out with the lamb and they get the little of the mint jelly on. Oh, it was delicious. Oh,
Agora is awesome. Yeah,
Agora is awesome. I'm planning another trip.
Let's go. So that's a restaurant. If you guys live in the Irvine area. That's it's in SoCal. It's near the airport.
Yep, Brazilian steakhouse.
Go for lunch because it's almost there's a few more options for the dinner, but it's basically the same thing.
Right.
The lunch, at least when I used to go, was only $25.
Yeah, it's a little bit more now, but I mean the big difference is during lunch or during dinner you get like filet or something like that. It's just one more meat.
Yeah, but the price difference is like at least when I used to go, it was like lunch was reasonable, and then dinner was like, wow, why am I spending all this?
Right. Oh, but the food's delicious, so holy smokes.
It's worth it, but I'm just saying you can save money.
Oh yeah. Here, pause real quick. I'm gonna go grab my coffee. You tell that really funny joke about the cheerleader, and I'll be right back.
I have no idea what joke he's talking about, but I guess while I have you, we're going to be discussing Battle Nerds later. It's our versus matchup. I just thought I'd go over for those of you following. We are down to just 33 fighters, so We still have some people to fight: Darth Vader, Han Solo, Godzilla, Tarzan, Lassie, Megatron, Gordon Freeman, Arya Stark, Gizmo, and Zatanna. Lassie is hilariously taking on Captain America today, so she'll be the first. Be her first fight. Pretty exciting stuff. Our number one with 4 wins is Rogue, and tied with that is Spock and Wolverine. Both of them seem to just destroy everything that they're in, especially Spock. I have a feeling he might be our ultimate champion, which is kind of hilarious because Cap and I are both, neither of us, huge Star Trek fans.
Ha 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 ha! Very funny joke, Frosty. The punchline just beautifully executed there. Who knew that she was a man the whole time? Anywho,
you know what's really, really funny? A man dressed in women's clothing. Ripping good laugh. That's what is it? Family Guy was quoting there. Nobody at me or get angry with pitchforks.
No. You know what's funny is that if you look back in time, men have dressed like women a lot.
Oh yeah. Well, dresses were, I think, originally a man thing, but I mean, shit changes. It's fine.
But it's just how societies have just.
There was something about like a while ago when women started wearing pants. Like doctors were like, "Oh, it's unhealthy,"
You gotta air it out down there.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so thanks for joining us. For those of you guys that are going to watch it, which is most of you after the fact, thank you for joining our little YouTube channel.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Or, no, it's not Thursday.
Shush, Frosty. When they watch it, it could be Thursday.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Anyway. Well, if you're watching this on Thursday, happy Thursday. If you're not, happy whatever day of the week it is.
Happy 4th of July for those of you who are tuning in at the family gathering who just want to hide and listen to the latest nerdy news.
Yeah. Do that. Hang out with us on the 4th of July. That sounds like fun.
Yes, we're talking at you in future tense. It's weird.
And also, like, I'm recently American, so, like, that's cool.
Yeah. What are you doing for the 4th? I work, but then we're going over to Mrs. Cap's house in the
I'm
PM.
too sick to do anything, go anywhere, or anything like that. I think I just have dialysis that night. But honestly, I don't leave the house much anymore. It's too hard. So I just mostly stay at home. Like my parents are up here visiting, and they're like, "We could go do this and this and this with my sister." And I was like, "I will stay here."
You'll mind the cats.
Yeah, but it's like I said, it's not worth it because if I start feeling shitty and I'm out, and it's just like I hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, I already feel shitty all the time, so.
No, that's why we drag ourselves out of bed every week to bring you the latest nerdy news, reviews, and occasionally pitch things. So my goodness gracious, what do we have going on this week? We have
a bunch of stuff.
Secret Invasion dropped. We have the newest Unicorn Warriors Eternal.
Oh, it's the finale, yeah.
Oh, was it the finale?
Yeah, we just saw that. Did you watch it? Like, it ended. I mean, well,
sort
of. It ended with them going like, "Hey, we're gonna continue."
Right. Yeah, it's set up for season 2. Then what else we got? Rogers and Music drops.
Lassie takes on Captain America. I was just talking about that when you're grabbing your coffee.
No, you were telling that joke about the cheerleader. That's really fun.
Okay. Yeah, don't watch the playback. And then we've got let's see. Oh, and Batman: The Doom That Came to Gotham. We'll be discussing that. That was my Behold Nerds pick.
Battle Nerds.
As well as we got some rants. Maybe we'll talk some more. We were talking about it last week, so maybe we'll talk some more Quantum. Always love hearing what's going on there. And let's just jump into nerdy news, shall we?
Yes. This just in.
So I didn't know this was even a thing that was going to happen, but apparently there was a Boba Fett movie in the works.
Oh.
Details on the movie was it was borderline R-rated, and the movie was going to be a one-off spaghetti western.
Love it.
And it was unfortunately though it's been canceled.
So there's rumor that the Acolyte is going to be slowly phased out of existence. This is my nerdy rumor to contribute to the Star Wars fiasco. Yeah, I'd never heard of a Boba Fett. That would have been awesome. I wonder what era they would have
I
set
would
it
have
in.
liked. I don't know, but I like spaghetti western style movies. Like last one I watched was Django Unchained, which oh my god, that was such a good movie.
I haven't seen
But
Django Unchained.
oh, dude, you got to go see it. It's perfect spaghetti western.
You know what's funny about that though is with they released a line of action figures for the movie.
I remember, yeah.
And because the movie was so like not for kids, they pulled the action figures, and now they're actually coveted right now. And it's funny because at the time I went to Toys R Us and I saw all the figures; they were right there. I didn't bother to do anything. You never know at the time what's going to hit and what's not going to hit.
Yeah.
So what I did, my response to that was they had the Kick-Ass 2 figures, and I'm a big Kick-Ass fan, so I bought the figures from Kick-Ass, and the main villain, the motherfucker, he's just on the packaging. It just says MFer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny.
There's always. I mean, the thing is, it's nothing new. I mean, like back when we were kids, you know, like Alien or RoboCop came out, and then like we would get those commercials like, "Oh, Ripley's showing up in the power loader,"
right?
And then, "Oh, you're done. Now it's time for the Space Marines."
Right? Alien, send in the Marines.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, "Oh, RoboCop's here for justice,"
right? You know what's funny, because we're hitting that 30-year nostalgia mark for the 90s. If you go to Target at all, and because Target has like the normal like toy section, and then in the electronics section, it's got like the nerdy stuff.
Kind of overflow.
It kind of does, but they're starting to re-release all these like OG Alien figures. Like, hey, I remember the Scorpion Alien.
Yeah.
And oh, look at this guy and all this crap that's not in the movie. My favorite was they're doing the same thing with Jurassic Park right now.
Oh,
and
really?
I think I sent a picture in the in our nerd chat where it's a Lego set of the sick Triceratops and a Lego poo. And that's one of the things you get to build is a Lego poo, and you open it up and you find like the little berries in it. It's pretty funny. But I actually had one of these figures back then. I had the, oh my goodness, I think I had Malcolm or Nedry, I forget who, it was one of them. It was Malcolm, that's what it was, Malcolm. And he came with this backpack that flung a net. Like, I remember seeing these action figures before actually seeing the movie, and I'm going to the movie thinking, there's going to be this dude flying on a pterodactyl, and like none of that was present. So one of the re-releases for Jurassic Park for the 30-year is Ian Malcolm with like a hand glider chasing down like a Pachycephalosaurus or something. It's just absolutely bizarre. But you know, when you're a kid and you see that, it's awesome because here's this like net launching action type thing. But
yeah, the one that I enjoy in that little nerd section was I was in Target with my sister, and we always have to go to the nerd section. And she has no idea what Rick and Morty is or any of that. I'm like, maybe she does, but like she's not. It's not a show she watches.
Right.
And I was like, look, it's Mr. Poopy Butthole, and she was like, you know, like, and then well, it's just funny if you imagine if you're not into that, and then you pull an action figure off the wall, and it literally says Mr. Poopy Butthole on it.
No context, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the reaction is just great.
But anyway, again, let me pull up the news. So yeah, I'm bummed. I would have liked to have seen the Boba Fett movie. I like spaghetti westerns, like I said.
See, why didn't we get that in the Book of Boba Fett? That would have been. I would have.
I think the Book of Boba Fett was fine. I think I think it was presented in a way, and it's given away in the title, the Book of Boba Fett,
right?
That turned people off. And then obviously you always have that problem where you take a character that's known for a few lines and he's kind of the ultimate badass,
right?
But then you move him to the it's kind of like the Logan problem.
Yeah,
he's more interesting when he's there with other people as a character,
right,
rather than the lead. Because once you have to make him the lead, you have to change it up. Yeah. But anyway, I think Book of Boba Fett was fine. I don't think it's not my favorite by any means, but I was still entertained watching it.
Yeah, it had moments that were good.
Can't think of a moment I didn't like, but yeah. Anyway, my Adventures with Superman, that premieres in 1 week. The question is, will you be watching? Are you gonna are you gonna check it out, or are you gonna give it a pass? Or
I'll watch it. You'll make me watch it. I'll watch it. So
it looks like a younger Superman show. I may watch the first episode and
yeah,
decide if it's really for me.
right.
I watched some of the trailers and stuff like that, and I was like, yeah, it doesn't look too bad. But again, it's like it looks like it's made for a younger audience, so who knows if I'll watch it.
So you know what I started doing not that long ago is I started rewatching some of the Batman, the Adventures of not Batman, the Adventures of Superman.
Mhm.
Those were good.
Yeah, I
That
restarted
is a
watching
solid show. Like my favorite is still going to be the one where it's the tie-in with Batman, and it showcases both of their power. I love that. It just
I think that's the best. Okay, look, the best animated Superman is the Fleischer ones from the 1940s. Nothing will top those.
right.
Nothing ever will. But that aside, the animated series is probably the best version of Superman that we've had outside of the comics. It's like, at least I say best because I understand people love Snyder Superman, people like Reeves Superman, but I just think that one captured the
Superman,
character.
right?
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, there's other versions, and you know, and everybody puts like the Zack Snyder one that's obviously an objectivist version of the character, and that's fine if that's what you're into. But the one that's like closer to the core character is that one.
Right. So one of my favorite episodes was actually the one where they introduce Mr. Mixie-Pitalik, voiced by the legendary Gilbert Godfrey, and it was one of those episodes where yes, Superman can punch a black hole into non-existence. He's Superman, but against somebody like that, his powers don't really mean anything because Mr. Mixie-Pitalik is one of the fourth dimensional.
Fifth dimension.
Yeah, fifth dimension. So it's almost like a Rumpelstiltskin type thing where the entire episode, it's Superman just outsmarting him every step of the way. And he goes back to the fifth dimension to his really hot girlfriend, wife, whatever. And it's just funny. I love that episode. Because Superman is also extremely intelligent. It was nice to see that aspect of him in that episode.
Yeah, it's funny because like what we're talking about organically, like if you follow us on Twitter, so we got onto there was a lot of Twitter noise this week about exactly these conversations. We'll go into it over the rants, but my favorite part was because I mentioned the reason it was a discussion about like the most iconic version of Superman is Henry Cavill, and I said, well, not really. Like the issue is like that's this Superman that kills. And just like, and they pointed out Keaton killed in the Batman movies, and he did. And then Superman even killed in Superman 2, depending on which version you watched. If you watched the director's cut, he didn't, but if you watched the theatrical version, he did.
Right.
But the point I brought up is, look, yeah, there's always going to be exceptions to the rules, but the rule that these are exceptions to is Batman doesn't kill, Batman doesn't use guns, Superman doesn't kill. And I said, this is the reason why people point to the animated series so much as like being the iconic characters. And the reason I brought up the animated series is because more people have seen the animated like not everybody reads the comics.
Right.
So that's not necessarily their Superman, but in like other mediums, the animated series is often pointed to as being like kind of pinnacle Superman and pinnacle Batman.
Right.
But yeah, it was interesting because then some guys like, oh, you should pick up a comic. Like I've never read a comic before. And then I thought he meant like pick up a comic and point out like when Superman didn't kill. So I was like, okay, I'll start. And then he was like, wow, you picked up one comic. I hope you enjoy reading the thousands more. And I still it didn't click in my head what he was implying because that's just so random to me. Like I've never read a comic. And
I mean,
like,
that's sort of a shifting of the goalpost, though. Like, here's an example. Oh, you just went to one example? Yeah, you asked for an example. Here you go.
I thought he was asking for an example, but what he was actually saying was pick up a comic like I've never read comics before. So, and that's so, I've read thousands.
Yes.
And so it was like over my head because of that. I was just, and then
it's just a statement
afterwards,
that's so patently wrong, your brain doesn't register it.
Yeah, and then I realized afterwards, like, oh, you think I've never read comics before? I was like, ha! I even have a podcast where I interview comic book creators.
Dude, you just open the salvo on him, Frosty. Sometimes, see, that is the opportune moment for you to just open the floodgates and just go full Frosty.
The thing is, he must have figured it out because, like, my normal responses were like, I was like, All-Star, and then he was like, oh yeah, doing, like, I thought he was saying do another one, and so I listed like 3 more. Right. I was like, hey, you want some ones where he kills? Here's some where he kills. And I was like, oh, here's a story recently where he not killing was a big part, which is a War World story. I don't think you've read that one.
I haven't read War World.
Yeah, it's, well, I mean, there's been multiple war, but the recent one,
yeah,
the whole point was he wouldn't kill his opponents, and so that was becoming a thing. So we needed a champion that would kill, which I don't know. Is that, if you're like, I'm a pacifist, not necessarily pacifist, but if you're like, I won't kill, but here's someone who will, I kind of view that as like still like kind of like killing, sort of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway.
You should pick up more comics, Frosty. Clearly, you're just not.
I should pick up more. That's a good point. I should pick up more comics. But my Adventures with Superman. So, like I said, that premieres in 1 week. It sounds like we'll both check out probably the first episode. I'll message you. Maybe we can.
We can do something. You know what though? So, going back, even though Injustice is my favorite, like probably comic book series of all time. There's something about it. I love it. I love Injustice. Just the writing.
I didn't know it was your all time though. Like, cause I mean,
I mean, there are some. I don't want to underplay all the other good comics.
Hang on a second, Cap. I apologize to everyone. Hopefully, it's not too loud. I got it as far away from me as possible, but I got to turn on my fan. So if the sound's bothering anybody, just message us in chat.
I don't hear a thing.
Yeah, I got it as far away as possible from the mic, so hopefully it's. I'm just, as you know, it's California's hot at the moment,
right? But the reason why I like Injustice is sort of the same reason why I like Harley Quinn so much. It's the characters just under different circumstances, and you know what happens.
Well, we'll be talking about that in Old Nerds because that was
right. Great movie, by the way. Can't wait to talk about it.
I'm glad you liked it.
It was. I didn't know what I was expecting, and I kind of liked that I didn't. So, but we'll get into that. But no, I like. This is one of those examples where here's the keys to the kingdom, tell your own story. And somebody said, okay, I want to make a story of Superman going evil. Well, Rabble says everybody. And it's like, no, like I have a good story. Like it is such a good story that really goes into depth with the characters. Like I think it's like a deep dive into each of the individual characters. I love it.
One of my favorite Supermans is All-Star, which is also basically an Elseworld.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that this is why I always say I don't really care that much about canon.
Right.
Because they wrote the All-Star Superman story. It was a cool story. They basically took all the Supermans and they made this amalgamation character, and they just told their story. And I think that's better than this. Like, okay, so we've got this Superman, this Superman, this Superman. So then we're gonna have to like do a reboot, and we'll do Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then this will bring it all back together.
Right.
And then that way we can explain why this Superman is this Superman.
Yeah.
And then like Superman Rebirth, well, the New 52 Superman, that one died. So then we grabbed the Superman that fought Doomsday from that thing, and we're gonna bring him back. Right. And he's got a family now, and that's the real Superman.
Right.
And you're like, what?
You should read more comics, Frosty. It explains it a lot better.
My point is like let's just don't. I think Marvel handles this stuff better with I mean, they've done reboots recently, but generally Marvel doesn't reboot as much as DC. Right. And their whole thing is, well, you're like, well, when did Civil War happen? A couple of years ago.
Yeah.
When did blah blah blah? Secret Invasion happen? A couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That's their answer to everything, and it's a looser way of handling canon, that I think is just better.
Right.
Although the problem with that is people that are like canon Nazis, I bet they find Marvel more frustrating because Marvel is a looser thing. So if you sit down and you're like a writer working for Marvel, like I'm gonna write Wolverine versus Thor, and you're like, what? Like, why wouldn't Thor just throw him into space?
Right.
And like it doesn't matter. They just write a weaker Thor.
Right.
And then whereas in DC they're much more hardcore about that stuff. Like, oh, you can't do that. The Superman is this powerful. You know, it still does, but not as much as Marvel. Marvel is looser. DC is more strict, and they try and explain everything.
So going back to what you had mentioned earlier, even though Injustice is my I would say favorite version of Superman, or one of my favorite versions of Superman, just because it's the tragedy of it. I'm a sucker for tragic characters. Mr. Freeze is one
of my thing. Like I said, I love underdogs.
Right. So underdogs, I love I love the tragedy, because here's the Boy Scout, here's the beacon of hope who just had that bad day, which is what the Joker's all about. He got tired of Batman. Batman's not fun anymore. Let's pick with the Boy Scout, and his first attempt.
What I find hilarious is like, he got tired of losing against a dude,
right?
So he's gonna take on a god instead.
Right. But he wins.
Yeah,
that's what's great. That is why I like it, because it showcases the characters, especially the Joker. I love the Joker. The Joker is probably one of the most perfect comic book villains of just all.
He's considered one of the scariest villains. What's funny though is a recent comic came out, and it was all these different villains, and they were talking about why they hate the Flash, and of all the heroes they go up against, the reason Central City's so nice and everything is because nobody wants to fuck with the Flash. Joker doesn't want to fuck with the Flash. Yeah, and then they showed like a story of like Joker trying to do something,
right?
But the Flash just it's over,
right?
And the Joker's like, damn it, and like all the fun's gone, so the Flash
right?
Instantly,
right?
And I always think like people look at Superman saying, "Oh, he's the most powerful," but
Flash is.
I got to give it to Flash. Like,
always Flash.
Speed is just so broken, and it just then Flash is just super speed,
Planck scale
to the most like
right.
Yeah, like anytime you say like, "Oh, well, could the Flash?" Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the answer is always yes. You know what I mean? Like, is the Flash fast enough? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? It was even great. It was in the Adventures of Superman when they introduced the Flash and they had him do that charity race. Like, that was fun.
I love.
That was a fun episode.
One of my favorite comics recently was when Flash and Superman were running, and I can't remember what the plot was, but the Flash was running and Superman's like, look, I can help you stop this, and he's like, Clark, you're not fast enough. And then Superman's like, what are you talking about? We've had all those races. I've won a few of them over the years. He was like, those are for charity.
Yeah.
And then he just zooms off.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, I mean, anyone can just like make Superman look slow.
Right.
You know?
Well, you know what's great is another one of my favorite parts in Injustice is when Superman and Flash are playing chess. And, they start off slow, but then they each get faster, and you see them going at that, super speed. And then Flash gets to checkmate. Like, love that scene. Love that. Love that panel. But anyways, yeah. So what I was going to say is I'm actually enjoying the Adventures of Superman now because it's classic Superman.
Is that new live action series that's out?
Which one? For
the Adventures of Superman?
Oh no!
Oh, the animated.
The animated.
Sorry,
yeah.
Yeah,
it's on Max.
No, I know what you mean. So that's kind of what my point was with my Twitter post. Is like, look, Dark Superman, sure, but
sometimes
I feel like it's been a while since we've had
like the classic, right? Like,
and that's almost what I admire about his character is that he's a god, but he's really just the nicest guy you'll ever meet,
right?
And like, and that's what's I guess the way I would, because fellow nerd Rob, creator of Whiteout Comics, he posted this thing on Twitter, and I'm not meaning to call you out, Rob. I know we just have different opinions on this stuff, but he's like super, speed, super strength, heat vision, super breath, people would rather watch him talk about hope and stuff, and like he was doing it like sarcastic. How dumb is that? But it's like, dude, like it's not what he can do, it's what he's doing and what he should do.
Right.
You know, yeah, I can watch him punch, Mongol in the face and have this crazy drawn out battle, and sure, that's cool. But one of the most iconic moments in comics during All Star, I keep talking about that one, but where he stops and he talks to someone who's going to throw themselves off of a ledge, and he's like, no, your doctor was running late, and it's like, sometimes life is hard, and he talks to this suicidal person. That's like one of the most iconic moments in Superman's comics, and the reason that is because that's the point. It's not what he can do; it's what he's doing and what he should do.
Right.
The fact that this guy came down, he's a god, but he stops to talk to a teen that's going through a hard time.
Right.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. And then people are like, "Oh, well, this is so dumb. Like she's automatically fixed." No, of course not.
He didn't say
she's
that.
She's gonna need therapy and everything, but like
he prevented that final step, is what he did.
And then that was obviously parodied in The Boys, where the Homelander on his birthday.
Yeah.
And then he just made her jump because he was like
having a bad day.
Yeah. That's what I mean, though. Like between like Homelander, Omni-Man, even like Hyperion in the Marvel universe, they're like, "Hey, here's an evil Hyperion," and it's like, come on, man, like let's get that, like you said, the animated series, the
hope, yes,
yeah. Anyway, so let us know what your thoughts are on my adventures with Superman. So speaking of Superman, since a lot of Superman talk, we were talking about this just before we went live. David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan, I don't know how to say her last name. They've been cast as Superman and Lois. Direct quote, accurate. They are not only both incredible actors, but also wonderful people. That's from James Gunn. Also about them, back in 2019, David Corenswet said, "My pie-in-the-sky ambition is definitely to play Superman. I love this. We'll talk about this in a second because this is all over Twitter. I love Henry Cavill's dark and gritty take, but I would love to see the next one be very bright and optimistic."
Yes.
So we were just talking about this, but
I want to see that.
Everybody, like all the Snyder Bros, they were like, "Oh, dark and gritty, blah, blah, blah. Look how hopeful this is." No, I'm sorry. That the Man of Steel, as much as you love it, and I understand you think there's hope and all that, it's still got the Dark Knight filter on.
Yes.
That's the best way I can describe it. It's a Superman movie with a Dark Knight filter.
It's without the color. There's no...
Yeah, and so
it didn't feel like Metropolis either, because Metropolis has always been like that slightly modern, like deco.
Not slightly. Oftentimes it's depicted as futuristic.
Yeah, like a deco futuristic, just Metropolis, and then Gotham is always like the gothic, just gritty. So we didn't get that in the Snyder. It just felt like New York. Like I wanted to see a little bit more of that sci-fi Metropolis. But anyways,
no, I understand. But I mean, people got really mad at David Corenswet for saying that Henry Cavill was dark and gritty. I agree with him. I get exactly what he's saying. Are you excited to see? What do you think of them as the choice?
They have the perfect look for it.
They look great. Look good.
They
people are saying he's not buff enough, but I mean, they'll
fix that. Yeah. If you see how Marvel transformed Chris Pratt from Parks Rec to Star-Lord, like it can be achieved.
The thing is, though, like this is people getting mad at this casting. This happens every single time.
Right.
Someone gets cast, everybody bitches about it, and then everyone's like, "Oh my god, they were the best one ever!"
Right.
And like, and then
except for Jared Leto's Joker, I did not like Jared Leto's Joker, but I will say Robert Pattinson's Batman.
Okay, I'm not saying that it's always good.
No. But I
they always bitch about it.
Right, but I remember the rabble just recently about Robert Pattinson being cast
and then
and he was fucking perfect. I loved it as a younger Bruce Wayne.
Keaton, he was also complained about.
Right.
I'm pretty sure people were bitching about Cavill.
Yeah, just everybody bitches.
The thing is, I've talked about this before, but like the whole movement to get Cavill to come back and I'll restore this and blah blah blah. I mean, he's doing Warhammer though. Like, why is no one like, yes, Warhammer? You know? I'm sure he is. Like, he's probably skipping to work every day.
Right?
I don't know if they're doing it right now, obviously, with the writer's strike and all that.
Right.
I mean, it's in the works, and I think it's going to be a movie and a series, is what I read.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's awesome. And he's not only in it, but he's like, I think he's a producer or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, of course.
Yep.
I can't wait. I think Warhammer is one of those series that
give us fresh sci-fi, damn it. Like,
well, we haven't really had a war. Like, there's been a couple of animated movies.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't really had a budget behind Warhammer
Right.
40K. The only thing I will say though, 40K, it's kind of like Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it very much is a lot of the inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
But they need to bring it back a little. Like, this is gonna sound weird. They need to dumb it down because 40K, if you go and watch any of those animated movies, you try and pick up any of the novels and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, it's just so dense
Mm-hmm.
in lore that you're kind of like, yeah, you know what I mean? We need the Luke Skywalker. We need the
Right.
guy that the audience that's like, well, what's going on? You know, so the audience is like, oh,
Yeah. So having
that's-
written the intro to Quantum, I did try to inject that into my
yeah.
yeah,
But you know what I mean?
did.
Like you're not huge on 40K, but I think you're interested in it.
Yeah,
But like, have you ever tried to like follow any of that stuff? It's like really dense.
yeah, I know what I know mainly from you. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I think it looks cool as shit. And if there's one of those 40K Warhammer stores that surprisingly stay in business. Holy shit! Like you can peek your head.
It's been a popular pastime.
Well, right. So you can poke your head if you see one of these 40 Warhammer stores. I forget what they're called, but you peek in there. There's usually people in there playing, and
but a lot of the time it's combined with comic book stores too.
Yeah,
like you get the comic gaming shops.
But I think if I were to have discovered this at a younger age, it probably would have had its moment to sink its talons into me. I just yeah.
I mean, there's a lot. The lore in 40K is probably some of the most interesting, also some of the most dense lore I've ever read, and just like in every aspect. Like, there's this one race. I forget what they're called, but they're like their armies are built around ranged weaponry, and they have very advanced weapons and stuff. And like, you know, it's just talking about like their rifles. Well, when their rifles hits one of the tanks that the human race has, the bolt, if it'll go straight through the tank, but not only will it go through the tank, but the vacuum that because it's so high speed,
it will cause a vacuum, like a bubble.
It causes a vacuum, and then anybody that's in the tank gets sucked out through a tiny hole. So you're dead. It just murders. Like all they have to do, and then a tank gone.
Right.
Like and stuff like that, or like the Necrons. Like, you know, they're one of my favorites. They're like this robot army that there's kind of an undead feel to them as well, but they're robots. But anyway, they when they show up on your world, it's scary because you see this massive army like coming towards you, completely silent.
Oh,
because they're robots,
right?
So it's this terrifying, almost undead robot army that's completely silent, and I just love that idea. Warhammer is basically, they've taken everything that you think in sci-fi and they just said, let's turn it up to 11.
So I did that with certain things in Quantum. So I actually have a similar thing where they're sort of undead. They're actually living, but they're sort of undead. Mentioned them last week. They're the primitives that got sort of remote controlled by the advanced evil space worms and just sent on a mission to take over the universe. So it was sort of like that, but they weren't silent though. They were just sort of programmed. Like if somebody were to just take control of your body and you're still aware of what you're doing, but you have no control over yourself.
Really good movie about that. I've been planning to make it a Beholder's Picks at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Where a guy, like his body is it's the best because the actor for it, like you watch him, he's doing all these crazy action scenes, but he's so good at playing it, like he's not in control of his body. It's like, oh, what the fuck,
right?
And like you can see him freaking out because his body's like going into auto drive,
right?
But anyway, what do you guys think of David Corn Sweat as and Rachel Brosnahan? I assume that's how you say her name. What do you guys think of their casting? I'm not familiar with any of their work, so I can't.
I'm actually okay with that. I'm glad
yeah,
that I don't know who they are.
But I think they look the part. And,
oh, they definitely. He's got the perfect chin for Superman. Just that square chin.
A lot of people are pointing out he looked just like Cavill, but younger. He does. I mean, if you put them side by side, they look very similar. Okay, but I mean, but that's Superman. He wanted a younger Superman,
right?
Yeah.
Right. Cavill's got a Superman look too. Hey, you're casting for
Cavill
Superman.
Did a great job. I mean, yeah, I love Henry Cavill.
Right.
So okay, let's see. Anthony Mackie on filming with Harrison Ford for Captain America: Brave New World. Direct quote: "He's everything a movie star should be." He would say, "Let's shoot this piece of shit," and everybody was like, "Yeah, let's shoot this piece of shit."
So, one of my favorite Harrison Ford stories comes from Mark Hamill. When they were filming A New Hope, there was after the trash compactor scene, and their clothes are dry, and Mark Hamill had pointed out, "Hey, shouldn't our clothes be wet because we just came out of the trash compactor?" Harrison Ford apparently responded by saying, "Ain't that type of movie, kid." That's perfect.
I'm looking forward to seeing Brave New World and Harrison Ford. My question is, he's mentioned this before. He's kind of old.
He belongs in a museum.
You kind of want to see and I don't know if they're going to tie it to Secret Invasion or anything, because we'll talk about Secret Invasion a little bit, but they're bringing it into some of these politics.
Right.
But if you remember Secret Invasion, Norman Osborn got the kill. So he was viewed as the hero, even though I think he should have gone to Thor because he stopped the bomb, but whatever.
Right.
So Norman Osborn got the kill, and he became a hero, which...
Wasn't that when he was Iron Patriot?
He was using a gun.
Okay.
Yeah, so, well, that's essentially Harrison. I know he's not Norman Osborn, but wait, no, he's playing
Ross, General Ross.
Ross,
right?
But they're kind of setting him up in that role. So I'm wondering if he's gonna tie that into Secret Invasion somehow. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to talking Secret Invasion. That got me. Oh, I'm really liking that show.
So good.
But anyway, yeah, I'm excited to see him. It's weird. It's gonna sound ages, but casting such an old guy,
right,
for such a role that's I guess physically demanding if he becomes what they seem to be setting him up as,
I just want to see him come out in a mocap suit for the Red Hulk.
You want to see him go Red Hulk?
Yeah, I mean, I want to see.
You see what I mean? They're sort of turning him into Norman Osborn at the same time. It looks like, in my opinion.
I mean, maybe we'll see what comes out of that. Just I know
it would be cool. It doesn't even necessarily have to be the actor in portraying Red Hulk, but I would like to see
his face
the way they did. Mark Ruffalo, right. Do that with Harrison Ford and Red Hulk.
See, I want to see a flat top though, because General Ross had that, or Red Hulk had that very pronounced flat top that is just awesome.
I love me some Red Hulk. That's just he's originally they wanted to make him red. It makes sense because red and rage and everything like that. They made him gray, but then they made him green because gray wasn't shown in the printing. Yeah. Right. Yeah, he just looks
just terrifying.
Scary as fuck. Yeah,
please. No.
I just think I understand Green Hulk is that's the Hulk, but Red Hulk just looks cooler in my opinion.
Right.
Because he beat Thor somehow, and I was like, that's stupid. How did he beat Thor? And then Thor and Hulk come back and team up and defeat. It's because he was the villain and stuff. anytime Thor loses, though, like if he loses against certain opponents, I'm like, okay, fine. But
Right.
against stuff like Hulk and even Red Hulk, I
It's
don't get it.
it's no
Like I just don't.
contest.
I know, but anyway, but let's put this out there as well. Are you guys excited to see Harrison Ford, or do you think would you rather see someone else's Thunderbolt Ross? I'm excited. I think I like the fact that Anthony Mackie was like, yeah, these are the best, coolest guy, and everyone's like, yeah, let's shoot this shit. It's perfect little bit from Brave New World.
That's awesome.
So this is off for us, although people that watch know that I'm a massive fan. So is Cap. The Community movie. There was a big. It was Donald Glover going to return, and yeah, it's confirmed he's going to be returning.
Yes.
With filming will begin next summer.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to see out of the Community? I mean, are you glad that he's back? And also, what do you want to see?
So, what do I want to see? I want to see Community. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but
Right, but I don't want to. They're so clever with how that show's more clever than I am. So when I say I want to see Community, I mean that I want to see something that's ridiculous. It's like what I want to say when I want to see South Park. I'm expecting like there's a certain expectation with certain shows that even though it's going to be something different, it's going to be that's going to be a Community thing. Like the Pillow Fort was hilarious, or the Don't Touch the Lava, just or the paintball episode, just.
No, that was the one that really kicked off the show.
Right. So some
because it was more grounded until they got to the paintball episode. Then
right,
the paintball episode was the one where they're like, you know what, let's just go crazy with this shit.
Right.
And but so here's what if I was gonna make a Community movie, and the reason I brought it up is because Donald Glover's returning. So if you remember when Donald Glover left the series.
Let's see here.